Hey, welcome to Great Harbor Yacht Club. My name is Tom Barry. I'm executive chef, and this is our snack bar here at the Jobson Sailing Center. Today I'm going to do a cool little appetizer. It's a great summer kind of fun southern influenced appetizer called corn and lobster hush puppies. It's kind of a fancier version of hush puppies, which are popular down in the south. Okay, so let's get going. First ingredients we're going to start is to make the batter for the hush puppies. And hush puppies are essentially a cornmeal dough or batter, if you will, that are deep fried. So I'm going to mix the dry ingredients first. I've got 1 cup of white cornmeal, half a cup of all-purpose flour in there, and half a teaspoon each of baking soda and baking powder. Okay, and I'm just going to mix this first with a whisk, just to kind of well incorporate everything so there's no lumps of baking soda or corn powder, which give you that kind of unpleasant surprise when you bite into it. Mix that up really well. Put that to the side. Hush puppy is actually kind of interesting. I'll kind of talk and cook at the same time. Hush puppies, it's thought, there's a couple different stories, that they originated during the Civil War. Confederate soldiers would kind of be sitting around the fire or whatever. Maybe they put the fire out. But essentially, when Union soldiers were approaching, they would try to quiet the dogs, and they would fry little pieces of cornmeal batter and throw them to the dogs. Man, like, hush puppy, hush puppy. But who really knows if that's true? I like that story, though. Anyways, mix the wet ingredients separately. I've got some buttermilk. I've got a couple tablespoons of melted butter and 1 egg. All right, mix that up. All right. Now, I always like to add the dry to the wet, just to kind of avoid big lumps or clumps or whatever. This is a very, very thick batter, though, so don't use a whisk to mix it. Make sure you use a spoon. And just kind of dump all that in there. You don't need to be fancy with it, but stir it around. You can also use yellow cornmeal to make this, or white, but I kind of like the way the white color comes out. Make sure it's not too coarse of a polenta, as a cornmeal. If you make it, it won't cook correctly, and it'll kind of leave a grainy texture. So a finer ground is what I like to use. You can see that that's a really nice thick batter right there. So we've got that. I'm going to fold in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. We've got some thinly sliced scallion greens. And it's really important you try to slice these as thinly as possible so no one's biting into a big chunk of scallion, which is kind of unpleasant. And some fresh corn, which actually I didn't cook this corn. It's going to cook in the hush puppy enough, and it actually is pleasantly sweet, and there's a little crunch to it. And you know, this kind of quintessential summer ingredient, corn and lobster. All right, so we're missing one more ingredient, kind of the star of the show, and that's this little guy right here, Mr. Lobster. So I'm going to really quickly show you how to break down the tail. You can use tail meat, claw meat. You can buy lobster meat. It doesn't, you know, I prefer to do my own because I know that I'm not going to overcook it. And basically, this lobster, if you look at it, this is a male lobster. You can tell because the swimmerettes are kind of hard and they're not soft like they would be on the first set actually here under the tail. And also the tail is a little bit thinner, less tail meat. It's for the males don't have to carry eggs, so the tails tend to be a little thinner here at the what's essentially the hips. But anyways, this guy, we're going to pull the tail off. And I don't know, the way I like to break down a lobster tail is to just gently crush it in my hand like that. You can use a towel too if your hands aren't as hardened through years of kitchen labor as mine are. And then just pull that tail right out of there. And that's good to go. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to chop this up. But first, I just want to kind of butterfly it and make sure there's nothing too gruesome or weird looking inside there. Put that stuff apart. So I'm going to basically chop this up pretty small. You don't want it minced and you don't want it pureed, but you need the pieces to be kind of small because I like to make small hush puppies as I go along. If you want to learn more about lobsters, there's actually a great book called The Secret Life of Lobsters, which I read and was really entertained by. And I don't know, there's a whole chapter on lobster lovemaking, if that's the sort of thing you're into. But it's a really good book, and I learned a lot. And I have a lot of respect for lobsters. They're delicious, and they take a long time to grow. Anyways, mix that in to the hush puppies. You can see as this batter sits, it gets very, very thick. And you just kind of want to mix it in there, but it's important not to over-mix it too much because you don't want to develop the flour gluten in there and make them chewy and tough. But you do want to mix it just enough. Incorporate all the ingredients really well. Okay, and that is the hush puppy batter. What you want to do before we fry this, before I fry this, is let it rest at least 20 minutes. It could even rest an hour. Put it in the fridge or whatever. Just kind of let it relax and let the flavors meld and let everything kind of come together and be beautiful. So when I'm frying the hush puppies, I like to do them in either a little fry daddy or a pot of canola oil at 350 degrees. It's important that you don't make these too big. If you make giant bomber egg-sized hush puppies, they're not really even hush puppies, but they are going to hush your guests because they're going to be doughy and kind of gross in the middle. So I like to use, it's called a number 100 ice cream scoop. If you don't have this, you can drop small spoonfuls in, but I kind of like the nice, rounded, perfect, beautiful look of using an ice cream scoop. And this is actually called the number 100 because they size ice cream scoops based on the how many scoops per quart. So there's 100 scoops in a quart. So here are the finished product, beautiful golden brown and delicious corn and lobster hush puppies. And I like to serve them with Chipotle-Honey Aioli, which you can also watch as one of my videos here and learn to make that. It's a great recipe. You can serve it with hush puppies or with burgers or whatever. It's really fun to make.